I'm Ian Adams from Scionon. In today's video, we're going to introduce you to the Guillotine Base Unit. We're going to talk about its advantages over knife grafting for novice users. We're going to show you how it can produce rind grafts, whip and tongues and cleft grafts in a bench grafting program. We're going to discuss some basic maintenance, and we're going to introduce you to our tape applicator unit, which is a great tool for putting the graft unions together. Please bear in mind, I'm a grafter, not a filmmaker. The Guillotine Base Unit is one of the modules in the Scionon Graft Crafter units. Everything you need to get going in a bench grafting program is included in the box, including 2 spare blades for the guillotine handle, toolkit for assembly, and instructions on use. The Guillotine Base Unit can produce 3 common graft signs, these being the rind, whip and tongue, and cleft. We'll start with the rind. To form the whip, first remove any dry, damaged or curved material at the end of the wood and make a square cut for better placement. Select the appropriate corner pocket on the 4-way guide block for the diameter range of the wood you are working with. Hold the wood with your right hand and place it in the corner pocket A1 with the bottom bud to the left and facing upright. Pull the handle down using a smooth motion while pushing the wood firmly down onto grip 1. On completion of the cut, lift the wood and the handle at the same time to remove the now cut rind bark sign. Let's now prepare the tongue. When using the Guillotine Base Unit to cut the tongue, some people prefer to use the guillotine handle, while others prefer the tongue splitter unit. It's a personal preference. To prepare the tongue, visualize dividing the whip face into thirds. You have 2 cutting options, the guillotine blade or the tongue splitter blade. First, let's use the guillotine blade to cut the tongue. Hold the wood in the left hand and place the whip face against the blade at the tongue start point while pushing your thumb onto the guide yoke. Pull the handle with a smooth motion so that the blade bites into the wood 1/3 from the tip. Pull through to the tongue end point, cutting in no more than 2/3 of the whip face. Now let's look at how to use the tongue splitter blade to cut the tongues. To use the tongue splitter unit to cut the tongue, use the left hand to firmly hold the wood and place it in between the guide while resting the whip face flat against the right hand side of the blade. Start the cut 1/3 from the tip and gently tap the end of the sign onto the blade with the right hand. Cut into a depth of no more than 1/3 of the whip face. Let's now prepare the cleft sign. Hold the wood in the right hand and place the whip face into corner pocket A2. Pull the handle down using a smooth motion while resting the whip face on A2. On completion of the cut, lift the wood and the handle at the same time to remove the now cut cleft sign. When cutting the cleft sign, it will sometimes be necessary to rotate the bud in line with the handle. This will make it easier when making the second cut. Now that you've seen how to prepare the basic graft cuts, let's look at how easy it is to work with different size wood. When we're working with our standard yellow 4-way guide block, we can work between a diameter range on both rootstock and sign material of about 16mm and down to about 5mm. For whip and tongue grafting, it'll cover the range of 5mm through to 16mm, and for cleft grafting, we can operate between about 5mm and 13mm. We have a block that can be changed for the different diameters, and it's easily placed back into place by a quick tap down. Make sure that the corners are all secure before working with the unit again. When we are working with our 4-way guide block, we can start by using pocket B when cutting the heavier material. We cut down the stem until we reach the smaller diameters, and then we can simply rotate the guide block to pocket A and carry on cutting. Pocket C can be used when the sign wood has not been graded and is continuously changing diameter. We can start by setting the larger material back in the valley. As the sign wood gets to a smaller diameter, we can simply continue using the same pocket by sliding the wood towards the guide yoke as the diameter decreases. And now we'll show you some of the common mistakes when using the Guillotine Base Unit and how to fix them. The most common mistake when using the guillotine to cut whips is getting a blunt end. We're going to show you how to get a true taper cut. To avoid a blunt end, avoid using the very curved wood and select the appropriate pocket for the size of wood to be cut. Also avoid any back bud interference. To fix the blunt end, move the wood at the bottom to the left and recut to form a tapered end. When preparing a rind bark sign, a slight blunt end is acceptable. The back of the tip will be cut off, making it easier to insert the sign into the receiving cut. Wrong tongue proportion. Before beginning the cut, ensure that the whip face rests against the blade at the correct start point. If the cut is higher than 1/4 or lower than 2/5, recut the tongue in the correct proportion. Slant on tongue cut. As the cut begins, check that the whip face is being cut straight. If a slant cut is noticed, back the blade off and twist the sign or rootstock material so that the whip face rests flat against the blade. Begin the cut again. Now you've seen how to prepare grafts and the common mistakes and fixes. We'll now explain the modular nature of the Scionon Graft Crafter range and introduce you to the tape applicator unit.
The Graft Crafter range comes as modular units, the main part being the Guillotine Base Unit. When using the Guillotine Base Unit, it can be assembled using a link guide block to mount onto the tabletop. That means that our tongue splitter unit can be used at a separate station. The tape applicator unit is supplied as a separate unit. It can be mounted to the Guillotine Base Unit and the tongue splitter unit assembled onto the end and simply bolted together from underneath. We refer to this module as our guillotine tape unit.
This is the best setup when you are grafting alone. You can prepare the signs and rootstock with the Guillotine Base Unit, then assemble them and immediately tape them with the tape applicator unit. Experience has shown that one tape applicator unit can be fed by 2 Guillotine Base Units. In bigger groups, the tape applicator unit can be set up at a separate workstation.
The Scionon tape applicator unit is a dispensing unit for non-perforated grafting tapes. It can be supplied with a spool size of around 30, 40 or 50 millimeters. The 30 millimeter spool will take maxi-film tape, the 40 millimeter spool will take buddy tape, and the 50 millimeter spool will take our own Scionon grafting tape. Great for uniting the rootstock and sign union.
Now we'll answer the most frequently asked questions about the GBU.
The main advantage over a knife is that beginners can be introduced into the grafting program in a safe and controlled environment without the need to learn knife grafting and the dangers that are involved. This largely depends on the environment. If the rootstocks and work surface are free of grit and debris, they can last up to 2 or 3 days before needing sharpening or replacement. Once the blades become dull, this will become evident and should be changed. Blades have produced up to 100,000 cuts in their useful life when properly maintained. Well, prior to use, or at least at the end of the workday, visually inspect the tool to take note of any damage or loose fixings. Where necessary, remove any debris from the tool. Check the blade. If it requires sharpening, replace it or sharpen the blade. Periodically, say once a week, you could take the tool off the bench, strip it down, wash it in hot soapy water and reassemble it ready for use again. And of course, make sure that all the fixings are there and ready for use. Simply send us an email to info@scionon.com or alternatively visit our website scionon.com. Look up the distributor tab. There may be a distributor in your region. Yes, Manuel and I have offered workshops for a number of years now. We've run them in Europe, North America, Russia, Ukraine and several other places, including Australia and New Zealand. If you're interested, send us an email at info@scionon.com and we can probably tailor a package to suit your needs. Well, I guess after a hard day's graft, you could reach for your shears, grab a beer, pop one for yourself and your mates. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Cheers.